Ba-da-ba.
You guys are such ass.
Welcome to The Second Wall, a binge-free zone where we look at a series and discuss it in small movements. This time we are discussing the 2017 series Your Lie in April. It can be found on most podcast and social media platforms, a full list of which can be found at beardyandthebeast.com. Please watch episodes 16 through 18 and join Drew and I in the lobby to discuss the show afterwards.
Man. This series is so perfectly adapted to be watched in 3-episode chunks. It's ridiculous.
Isn't it, though?
Like, everything is so encapsulated. I feel like if you were to shift it one episode in either direction, like, it would still make sense, but there wouldn't be that same feeling of continuity I get watching it in 3 episodes. That's my suggestion for anyone. I mean, if you've gotten this far, you've obviously seen the majority of the series, but it should be enjoyed in 3-episode chunks.
Yes. Yeah, it's almost like little mini movies. I can say I am very glad that it ended with her collapsing in the hospital and not her collapsing and bleeding profusely from the head like the episode started. Because I have a feeling like the little bit of a lull we had before we got to recording this one might have been a little bit more nerve-wracking.
I was good.
Yeah.
I was emotionally prepared. So obviously it won't make sense in the release schedule, but we had a break between the last recording and this one here that was like I went on vacation and stuff, and then
work stuff.
Yeah, work stuff. So like there was no recording for a while, and last episode was it episode 15 was a bit of an emotional cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, because I was expecting it, I was kind of desensitized to the abruptness of it. I was like, yeah, something's gonna happen. I know it's gonna happen. So you know what? I'm not gonna worry about it. Just how things are.
Yeah. I mean, the show sets up this tension very well, and I have to say, much like Kousei describes Kaori, it is a bit of a roller coaster.
You know, that being said, just because you mention it, like, I probably would have brought it up in a final discussion, but I feel like it could play a little bit more with the levity. There's plenty of build up and fall, but like the enjoyable fun twisties and the levity on that roller coaster it seems shorter than I think would be the most effective. That being said, we've also mentioned previously, just to counter my own point, thank you very much, me, that this series has been pretty good about not wasting time.
Yeah.
There's only been a couple scenes that could have been altered or removed, in my opinion, meaning, like, where are they going to get that extra time from, aside from adding episodes?
Yeah. And this series, to me, feels like one of those perfect length at this point. I can't really see adding more episodes to it.
I actually think it could remain as effective and be shorter by a little bit, maybe 10%, 15% sort of thing. But I don't think you can make it longer and make it as effective as it is.
I agree. Again, a lot of that comes down to one of those things that we've talked about many, many a times. No scene wasted. It knows what it's doing. It's doing it well. It's layering it out. So, yeah. Wow, my writing is terrible.
Dude, mine too. I noticed that while I was writing notes for these 3 episodes. It was just like, I started writing the next letter after, like, say I was writing about, I would do ABOT, and then I'm like, no, there's a U in there, like
Yeah.
constantly. I don't know.
Yeah. So I guess these 3 episodes, like the A plot, I guess would be Kousei and Nagi.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I really like personally how they show how alike Kousei and Nagi are, and use that to kind of build the character and show the character growth we get from Kousei.
Yeah, and I agree. They have done well in this series, drawing parallels between emotional states and music, or music and sports, but not not so much like overall characterizations themselves or characters themselves against each other.
Mm-hmm.
So it was quite refreshing to bring that in with Nagi and apply more context to, you know, loser piano boy mopes about a lot.
Mm.
I mean, at least I'll give Kosei this. Reason why he hasn't pissed me off yet is it's not a case of, oh no, my mean old dad makes me hang out with these hot chicks and pilot a giant robot, and I'm super sad about it all the time.
The damn robot.
Getting a robot, Shinji.
But you had an actual point going from that.
Did I?
Because you start off saying it's like, it doesn't bother me because it's not like.
Oh, yes.
And I figured there was another point there, but I also know that sometimes you just forget you were in the middle of a sentence and move on.
Called out. You know, the worst thing is, I was called out. It was a Thanksgiving dinner once upon a time. My mom called me out on that in front of like the whole family and this like person I was courting, etc., etc. Just like, don't bring attention to it.
Oh, I will bring attention to it. Your mom shouldn't be, but I will.
I guess
something getting the damn robot.
I guess I gotta start. I guess I gotta start calling Aiza Takashi now. Hey.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like like most people were calling him by like his family name before, so I was just calling him by his family name, which might have been difficult for some of our listeners because you were referring to these people by their given names. But now we have 2 Aizas.
Do in fact.
Called it.
You did, and
super smart.
I blame
myself on the back.
I blame IMDb for lying to me because I swear that she had a different last name and I misremembered her relationship to character.
You know what? Because I'm gonna mention now, there was some I'm gonna forget, but I want to mention it. I think Miss Seto's daughter is adorable.
Yeah.
Just like half blank face and just excitable about everything and just like exists there.
Yeah.
Because this like adorable transcendent being.
She really is. So one thing that I should kind of it comes up later.
So you want to talk about the primary story? So Nagi and Kousei to start.
Yeah. So I think I'm not really sure we need to break it up by episode for this one. So I think it's great to see how Kousei started to teach, because he started to teach very much like he would have been, that
Mhm.
very harsh, and then kind of realized that he was doing that and started like backing off that little bit. I guess being a bit more gentle, but still being firm about it.
Well, I saw him as originally he was firm without context, right? So he
Yeah.
was just being firm, and then they had the interpersonal moment and a coming of understanding.
Mhm.
And then from there, he could be firm, but Nagi would understand that he's a person, and that's where she begins to understand who he is. And
Mhm.
of course, as our shonen protagonist, she begins to discover herself through him.
Yes. Because that's how it always works. And of course, I mean, being, the younger sister of, one of his antagonists just goes and shows how important that shonen aspect is. Convert the sister, then you can convert the brother.
Is that how it works?
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure it's there somewhere. I mean, so I find we got this like really interesting dynamic between Nagi, Kousei, and Seto.
Mm.
Right? Because we're basically seeing like the three generations. Seto trying to teach Kousei while Kousei's trying to teach Nagi. And seeing how Seto is almost changed her approach and how she's helping him now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, I think a very important part, of course, is he gets that bit harsher, as you alluded to there. She runs off, and Seto's just like, no, you have to chase after her now. Like, it's just how it be.
Mm-hmm.
And start getting those shots that, the actual indication that she's the younger sister, with the shrine staircase. And we saw that in Takshi's flashback talking about his hero. And it kind of, I like how it culminated with Kousei running out and her following him and doing that same type of support.
I see what you mean.
I think it just shows the character growth on both of their sides very well. And again, they do this in a couple of episodes, and it doesn't feel forced.
Yeah, it was very natural. And to kind of like take a slight hop back, I really like the dynamic that they're doing with because Seto having Kousei teach Nagi is just a continuation of teaching Kousei, but in this time it's not so much about piano, it's more about musicianship and finding himself. So it's more of a life lessons, I guess you can say.
Well, that was something I was gonna kind of say is like to wrap it all up, but I can kind of mention it here too. It's the like her reasoning for getting Kousei to teach. It's like, I need you to get to believe in something because I've just seen you with so much sorrow. Let's get this joy here somehow, right? Give you something to live for. So I think there's this larger theme of a couple of larger themes of seeing is like how to like pick yourself up and keep moving, how to and just the cycles that happens, right? You get one person moving, it ripples out, and you get others moving. So yeah, there's definitely a maternal teaching there as well.
It was such a good line too that Seto was saying that Kousei, he's faced enough sorrow. I just want Kousei to be a happy pianist.
Yes.
Like the delivery of it was so good. I was like, oh.
Yeah. And I felt we had a lot of that with Seto over these couple of episodes.
Well, they're really using this to explore her characters on the side too, right? Mm-hmm. So what space they did have available, they did kind of dedicate to exploring Miss Seto's her character, as well as just like her fears and her guilt towards what she believes she did to Kousei.
Yeah.
And of course, when Nagi was upset that she was replicating it, but then she, of course, like, it was implied that her sitting down and trying to console Nagi was different than how she approached Kousei before, when she found him crying in the storeroom.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm pretty sure, like, the storeroom is almost like she just walked away. Or she didn't know what to do.
Well, and it's also an awkward situation because it's like your close friend's kid and your close friend is on the verge of death or has died. It's like you're dealing with your own sorrow. It's a very complicated circumstance. And, I mean, I'm going to throw this out here. Where the hell's the dad?
Yeah. Yep. I get that.
Like, in any of these animes where there's like a dad figure, I'm always expressing it. It's like, oh, that's a great dad thing to do, or like that character didn't do right by their dad. In this case, like absentee father much. That's probably half of Kousei's problems.
I think the only reason I let the absentee father bit slide is, well, I mean, he's not exactly brought up, other than like a throwaway, you know, he works overseas or something like that. But I don't think any of that would have served the story. I swear to God. I'm afraid the second I talk, she's going to start again.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. And I think we talked about that a little bit before. It's like, it just wouldn't have served the story.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, I mean, it serves this story for his father to be an absentee father and no help, no emotional support. Because as soon as he has those type of staples, like half of the storylines are not as impactful. Like if we had the father from Bell as Kousei's father here, like just a guy trying to do his best and do right by his son in this case when his wife had died. Like that is a completely different story.
Yeah.
You like at this point, like his dad might as well be dead too.
Yeah. It's just there's not the baggage with him.
Exactly. That we'll save that for the second season. But
yeah, like, so I mean, going back to Seto and Nagi's interaction there, I think, as you were saying, like, Seto just lost her best friend.
Mhm.
She couldn't have been there. So, you add those extra couple of years, right? Recognizing it and not having that same baggage, so she's more available to step in and help, makes a big difference.
Also,
And people
likely,
don't care enough about that.
yeah, lost her best friend, likely pregnant.
Yeah.
Just like, I don't fault Seto for not being there for Kousei.
Mhm.
Like,
But I definitely understand how she faults herself.
yes. Whereas we both we understand it, but we're like, you don't need to fault yourself, but we get it.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a nice little tangent. Should we get back to Kousei and Nagi?
Yeah, it's all still kind of a plot, but yeah. So
would I really like saying like the development, how it was somewhat mirroring, or sorry, once Kousei had asked, "Hey, can I play at the show with you here?"
Mhm.
It somewhat started mirroring what Kari and Kousei's kind of experience was. Like,
Yes.
the hyper practicing, the humming the tune, the reading the score when no instruments were around. Like, she changed focus and started doing the same kind of things that Kousei did, and that's one of the ways that they were kind of really drawing a parallel between her character and his character.
Yes. And I think like that parallel and that practicing, I think the one thing that summed it up so well to me was right before they went on stage.
Mm-hmm.
And he sees her hands clenched, and he just grabs her hands and is like, relax, you're gonna that's not good. And she all of a sudden realizes his hands are shaking because he's just as nervous, and you need to shut up.
Do you want to pause for a sec? Go kiss a dog.
It's not going to make a difference. I'm sure someone's outside looking at the window or something, or getting their mail, or well, it's a good thing you have a plan for me to start writing down the time codes of when she barks, because that's going to be this entire episode.
You're gonna have to get me a picture of her face so I can edit it onto one of the characters, I swear.
Yeah.
It's so distracting though, and I hate that it's in the recording.
Yeah, I know.
All right. Well, that's one of the things. It also, that moment was also kind of mirroring a moment that Kousei had before he got on stage. I think before, his solo performance, where he was nervous and he was kind of shutting down and doing the same thing. And then he started noticing the people around him were just as nervous or anxiety ridden. And that kind of helped to know that other people were also experiencing the same thing.
Yeah.
So, you're not the odd one out there.
Well, and especially when you're seeing someone you're looking up to being nervous that way. Because Seto kind of already explained it to her when she was calming her down. It's like, yep, nope, it's going to be nervous and anxious, and you're going to be upset, and you're going to be slamming things. And then everything's just going to go. I can't remember the exact line which is basically like then it's like a release of euphoria.
Oh yeah, like the context in the conversation was like, no matter how hard it is and how nervous you are, that the release and the euphoria you get even for a moment's recognition at the end.
Yeah,
I like butchered what was said, but that was kind of in effect what it was about.
Yeah.
You know what I really liked?
Hmm.
Do you remember all the intense attention to the detail and practice that Kousei was doing leading up to the show?
Hmm.
You don't, but you feel it was there.
Yeah.
They didn't show him practicing like at all.
Yeah.
Because they explored it all through Nagi, but because they were drawing those parallels, and this was like, I'm not going to say it's genius level, but it was definitely well done from like a scripting, storyboard, like directing everything. You get the feeling because Nagi is like Kousei, and she's putting her heart and soul into this, that he is as well, because you also know his character.
Yeah.
So,
oh, exactly.
It was just something really fun that I kind of noticed when they were getting on stage. Like, I don't remember him playing piano at all leading up to this.
Nope, he didn't.
But you feel like he did.
Oh yeah, and I mean that kind of gets covered in the Kaori bit of the story.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just that good growth. I mean, it's the same thing. Like at the beginning of the show, we didn't see Kaori practicing.
True.
It's again, it's a good way to show that growth that's happening. I love. I guess I like how Nagi grew through her time with Kousei.
I mean, that's the effect that shonen protagonists have with people around them.
Yes. It's nice to see how it reflected with her starting to understand her brother more. Because she didn't understand what was happening at that time. And it's like, nope, she's doing the same thing. Yep, not eating, not sleeping, just going and crying on the piano.
Well, and through all this, they were like in the very end, after the performance, she began to understand how she was towards her brother was kind of how her brother was towards Kousei.
Yeah.
Like making him an idol or a hero.
Mm-hmm.
And like that perfect being that's walking ahead of you, right?
Yeah.
And it's a shame that Takashi hasn't seen it yet, because everybody else seems to be seeing it so far. Like, was it just 2 episodes ago? Emmy saw it. Igawa, right?
Yeah.
It only took 3 episodes for Nagi to see it. And I guess like Takashi's just so bullheaded that he's not able to see it yet. That he needs to. I just feel he needs to find who he is as a musician. He's skilled, but I think he might be stunted. He might lack direction.
So, I think where some of this comes from, it's like Igawa chased after Kousei in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to remember, the way Nagi started her training arc was being the same way. No, the score is sacred, which is what her brother does, because that's what he learned from watching Kousei.
Yep.
So Nagi's getting Kousei after he's grown as a musician, which in a way lets her leapfrog ahead of her brother. Because
well, she's also getting direct training and direct interaction, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, that definitely helps. But looking at just the emotional aspects of it here, right? So Nagi is influenced by Kousei after he's had his growth.
Yeah.
Whereas Takashi very much was inspired from before. And again, we're still talking only the course of several months here, right? So Takashi is just trying to beat what he sees as a perfection. That's what his goal is. This performance here, I think, is that extra flash of inspiration he needs to be able to find that emotional aspect. And the score, it doesn't have to be sacred because but this is really the first direct influence he's had with that. Because the other times were kind of like, it was kind of a mess when the tones were changing in the previous ones. This one wasn't. So, that's why he has that spring in his step again. Now he can chase after Kousei and in some ways Nagi because he's had that extra dose of inspiration again.
I think that dose of inspiration is all the things that Nagi is learning from Kousei.
So this is one that I was gonna say because first of all, I just love that misunderstanding. Experiences, which kind of seems a little bit weird until I realized that they're only a year apart. She's 13 and he's 14.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I keep forgetting. It was 2 years ago, and he looked like he was 6 years old in the flashbacks. Yeah. Like, the way that they do the over-exaggeration and, like, growth from in adolescence here keeps messing with my brain.
Yeah. I had to tell myself that afterwards, like, nope, they're only a year, maybe a year and a half apart. Because I thought she was a lot younger. Or rather, he was a lot older.
Yeah. Better way to phrase that.
Yeah.
I guess that brings us to the performance itself,
Yes.
I kind of wanted to leave that to the end of the kind of like A storyline here, because
as did I.
To kind of sum it up before we go into this 3-episode arc in Your Lie in April, though not the most impactful, like compared to the other 3-episode watches we've done. Like, there's definitely been other ones with much more vibrancy or deep beats.
Yes.
But the flow of the episodes and the characters and how everything melts together, like the way that they're telling the story, this is why this series is actually probably going to end up in, well, depends on how it ends, but it's how it's going to probably end up in like my top 10, animes of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a quality anime. The reason why I wanted to mention this here is because, like, in that kind of triangle of this 3-episode arc here, this being at the top of it, all these understandings and all these threads from all the episodes before it kind of not intensely but culminating together for this performance. And the way that they did it, I thought was elegant, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I agree. And just to slightly disagree with what you're saying about it not being as impactful. I think it wasn't as overtly impactful.
Okay.
I think there's a slight difference there because there was a lot of subtlety in it, and it just didn't need to be, Kaori collapsing at the end of the performance.
Look, as your average shonen enjoyer over here, I need everything to just punch in the face, right?
That's fair. And I think I'll mention it now, and I know it'll probably come again. It's like this 3-episode arc isn't. I don't want to say it's not exactly 3 episodes, but it is it feels to me very much like a calm before the storm.
Well, I think so, and I think we'll probably talk more about that when we start talking about Kaori.
Yeah. But I think that's why it didn't have that same hard-hitting impacts, and a lot more of the subtle ones.
Well, if anything, we're currently in the eye.
Yeah, that works too. So I think the performance and the lead up to the performance, it was a culmination of what we saw in these 3 episodes and a culmination of what we've seen in the series overall. So again, there's a lot of that growth. As I said, starting off with just that nervousness before they go on stage, and the piece itself, starts off pretty much as you would expect, and then it's just like, nope, I'm changing it, and just that mischievousness.
I wonder, narratively speaking, I wonder if there was some clever tricks to remind you about the origins of the series and the characters in the series before we get into that, second wall of the storm. I definitely see some clever notes there, and I think that's why they may have laid out some of the things they did in the way that they did. So the next 3 episode arcs are just they're gonna be able to hit harder simply because we have fresh memories of where we came from.
Yeah. I definitely think that's part of it.
But yeah, the mischievousness was going and I'm not even. I guess it does matter that he could hear the notes still. But I think that was also him realizing that it's not his song. Right? He realized that this performance that he's in, he has a message that he's putting out there. But the main emotions and the main draw and the main performer on stage that he's recognizing is Nagi. But he's not going to let her get by casually based on practice alone. She needs to put in that emotion. She needs to put in that power. And using his mischievousness.
There were so many echoes in that. So first third of the song goes by fine. This is no different than when he was accompanying Kaori. We get that moment is like, oh, I can still hear my notes because, hey, that's character growth. But at that same point, the song still changes. And, you have Seto going there. It's like, basically, psychically encouraging Nagi to match pace because it's not supposed to be him. But it mirrors what Kaori had to do when he was losing control. And so pushes her up. And of course, being a waltz, yeah, at some point it is going to change to being he's supposed to be the one that is shining because it all moves down to the lower half, they're saying. So now she has to do exactly what Kousei was doing when she had the melody. It just made it this really vibrant, dynamic piece. And the big thing that really brings in the parallels more is just the glances that he was shooting to Nagi reminded me very much of Kaori glancing at him when she was trying to encourage him and keep him going. Just those subtle glances, those subtle, smirks.
Well, that's the thing.
Really brings up full circle.
Well, yeah, and Kousei learning from one of his teachers, effectively. In this case, like, emotional teacher.
Yeah.
And being able to apply that to a real world lesson for Nagi. And I thought it was really cool. Like, he used the perfect word, like making it more vibrant and dynamic. Because at this point he's getting known for like throwing weird stuff into his songs. Like, people don't get it right off the bat when it changes again. In this case, he like started intentionally trying to like overpower her, and then knew that she wasn't just gonna lie back and let it happen that way. And that's why like choosing a waltz for the piece was so perfect.
Yeah.
Like, it was so well calculated from a production standpoint that this is one of the reasons why I mentioned before, like, this 3-episode arc is probably one of the prime reasons why this will be a top 10 for me.
Yeah.
The back and forth was exhilarating, even though we didn't see the sparkles or the sunflowers or the changes of color.
Yeah.
But I liked the way that they were showing the hands. Because the way that they were showing the hands reminded me of the way that you would film feet of people who are doing a waltz together.
Yes.
It was very much a dance between the two I guess 4 hands, the 2 people.
Yeah. Oh, it was really well done. Just like those like near glances, the hand and such too. It was like chef's kiss. And it's just with the waltz in the playing, the idea of you have to know your partner is very important. And luckily we have Seto being our audience surrogate in this case here, where as she points out, it's like, no, he didn't push her any further than he knew she could go, but he still needed to show her she could do it.
One from the way that they expressed it, like, so she is known for being able to play piano at this school. Like, people know her as a pianist. They know that she has skills.
Yeah.
But the fact that people were still amazed coming out of it that she was that skilled. Like, she didn't even know she had that kind of ability, that kind of talent even. Really exemplifies like the amount that Kousei was able to read her ability and her passion for that music.
Yeah.
Like, it was the perfect read. And that goes back to what you just said. Didn't push her any further.
Yeah. And again, just goes to show like they are very alike. And I think Nagi is in my mind, Nagi is what Kousei was like before we actually got to see him in the show. Like that personality-wise, it's probably like that pre-mom dying. That was kind of the passion he would have had. I think there's those ties there as well.
I guess an ability, yeah.
Yeah.
Not necessarily attitude, which is
Yeah.
one of her defining character features.
Yeah.
Just to put that disclaimer on there, but the rest, yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah. No, they definitely have different attitudes, but they're still very similar people.
Oh, definitely.
And
well, it's the same way that like Kaori and Kousei are similar.
Yeah. And I guess I don't. Do you have more to say about the performance itself here?
What I really liked, to just kind of cap it off there, is it got a similar reaction to Kaori and Kousei's unorthodox performance when it was not nearly as improvisational or mixing it up or like experimental in that kind of attitude. Like it had a similar audience effect or interaction. It had a similar reaction from the audience. There we go.
Yeah.
Which I thought was cool. And it just kind of means that like there's more to the music beyond just playing it by the book or overloading it with your own style and your own emotion.
Yeah.
There can be a middle ground, and that's what I kind of learned from that performance.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's very important. It's a culmination of what they've been talking about, because Nagi was talking about how cliche
everything was.
Yeah, how cliche everything was. And like, so how music can transcend words in this. And but I mean, again, we still had that, that key phrase that we've had throughout. It's like, did it reach them? We have that from both characters, and that confusion from her. It's like she asks the question almost like right after she got the answer to that question, because she asks it as she sees Takashi, kind of springing out of the room, right, and flashing back to the images of when they were younger. So yes, it reached them.
Honestly, I took that final question as her questioning herself and not her questioning him. Because like it was just like a weird contextual point, because she had her anime hallucination where like the foot turned into her older brother's foot when he was, I assume, 2 years ago. Like what is age in this series? But I think it was more a case of her questioning, like, did she put it out there correctly? Did she understand, or did she put out the message
she wanted to?
She wanted to, yeah. Like more about her and less about him, I guess you could say.
Hope that's a fair reading of it. I mean, I like how clearly the performance reached everyone. I like that she clearly did hold her own, because everyone was still there. I mean, obviously they're friends, but they were still there supporting her. And I really enjoyed Nikke's reaction to her playing with Kousei. It really goes and shows that kind of ripple effect that I mentioned earlier, with the growth that's happening and the emotions and the inspiration.
Wait, why was Emmy there?
Not Emmy, Miki, the violinist who wouldn't.
No, but Emmy was there.
Was she there?
Yeah. She was sitting next to Takashi.
I thought that was Takashi's teacher.
I thought Takashi had a dude teacher.
I don't remember.
Okay,
to be fair, they're friends. They've been shown as friendly rivals, not.
Yeah, but doesn't make sense why like come see my younger sister's performance. Anyways, no, I did really like the ending there where kid with glasses was like, "Oh my god, you have his number," like, because he got shown in protagonist hard, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, he did.
Like instantly converted him into like a hyper fan.
Yep. You get the top billing, but we're taking the spotlight.
we even ate taiyaki with each other yesterday. I could go for taiyaki with the red bean. So, Noobs get Nutella. Bros get the sweet red bean.
It's true.
Oh, I did have one with a Kit Kat in it. They literally just put it.
Shut the cake.
Yeah, they just literally put Kit Kat in it and then like made the tacky. It was okay.
Be about what I expect with just being a Kit Kat.
Yeah, that's when I went to the Vancouver night market a few weeks back. Culinary delights. So I guess that brings us to the B plot.
Yeah, it's very weird calling it the B plot, but so Kousei's got a lot of sorrow.
What color is this guy again?
Oh, it's very gray skies.
Yeah, so I did notice her eyes were a steely gray for the majority of these 3 episodes.
Yeah, well, she's not doing well. That is very clear. And I don't know, I get this impression, and it could just be because we don't see Kaori with the others as much. That I almost get the impression they don't realize how serious this is. And my evidence around that, just so it's how we see Tsubaki talking about it with her friend when she's like playing basketball. Like she's not quite like, she's glad that Kousei's not going to see Kaori because, you know, she's got her feels.
Yeah, but if she knew how bad Kaori was.
Yeah. And in the back of my mind, I'm so glad for Watery, our sage, you know, actually finally recognizing why Kousei may be having some issues here.
Took him long enough.
It took him long enough, but because I'm sitting there, it's like, come on, guys, it wasn't that long ago. Tsubaki, you were there. Maybe you should see some parallels here. Maybe understand why he's having a hard time doing this. I mean, I get that she's confused and dealing with her own feelings as well, you know, much in the same way we were talking about Seto earlier. Like, she's kind of dealing with her own things around it as well, but it's, I don't know, I think it's kind of worse when it's someone that you are starting to realize you have feelings for and you can't be there for them. I mean, I think she said, like, to her credit though, she recognized that, because I'm pretty sure she's like, was I always this cruel? She realizes that there's something there, but it's probably not the healthiest.
Yeah, I'm definitely on the same page as you here. I think the big lie here is only Kousei actually knows how bad Kari might be. In fact, I don't think he knows the extent of it, but he knows for certain that she's definitely in a bad way. Like, I don't even know if Kari has confessed to the others that, like, she can barely even hold a bow anymore.
Yeah, I know that he's the only one who knows to that extent necessarily. But I mean, there was plenty there in the interactions that should have tipped people off. Like the very un-Kaori like snapping.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, it's emotional time, right? Like, she's in the hospital. Like, you know, people have moments. Not everyone's infallible.
Yeah.
I mean, if they were all super close friends, maybe they'd be able to pick it up. But like, I can see why, maybe not. I think you had a good observation here that, like, even Tsubaki hasn't even been able to figure out how much of an impact this is having on Kousei. Like, I don't see a world of Your Lie in April where childhood Tsubaki didn't go to see Kousei's mom. How close friends they were, like, even just to give her a get well gift or a card or something, right?
Yeah.
At least in the beginning, to have that kind of feeling.
Yeah.
And with how good Tsubaki knows Kousei, like, I know she's got her own thing going on right now. She's got her own internal conflicts. But for the first half of this series, we were talking about how well she knew Kousei.
Yeah.
Why can't she see that anymore, right?
And this is where I find it so difficult. It's like there's just hints in that conversation she was having with her friend that almost made me goes like, oh, maybe she does understand. But I mean, we've seen this selfish side a couple of times with her now. You know, about when she overhears him talking about the music track and such like that, for his next steps in learning, and, you know, possibly going overseas and all of this. And
well, I don't honestly. I'm gonna push back a little bit on a word usage here. I'm not sure if it's selfish per se. I think she's just very confused. She's very confused with her own feelings. She no longer understands the dynamic and the relationship she has with Kousei. And her reactions could be spawning from that. I'm not saying there isn't any selfishness there, but I just don't want to give the impression that, like you or I think that's a primary motivating factor in her actions.
Yeah. No, that is a good clarification. It's
But I mean, on that same aspect, though, I know they're not exploring that in the story right now. So Kousei hasn't been around or supporting Tsubaki either. Maybe she's just putting on a better face about it, acting more normally. I know she's been somewhat avoiding him, if I remember correctly, or I'm just confusing it with Girl Who Leapt Through Time, which I mentioned earlier today.
Yeah.
So that could be it as well. So I mean, it might just be a narrative exclusion to allow the story to move in a specific direction.
Yeah, I feel that's more the case. So there's a couple of things around that. And I got to remember, from character standpoints, Tsubaki is the supportive one, not Kousei. Doesn't mean he can't be there to support. It's just he's not. That's not his role narratively in the story.
Yes.
So us not seeing him there for her makes sense because we're not seeing her needing any type of support. But he is. So it's this confusion. I mean, she says it herself. There's this almost cruelty to it where she can't be there for him. And it makes me concerned how a relationship would go if one happens between them.
Well, honestly, I'd be concerned about any relationship with Kousei, but Tsubaki is definitely in a weird place right now.
Yeah. It's because we have Watery kind of mirroring this, like all of a sudden Watery is being the actual supportive person, right? Understanding where that parallel is, even recognizing that Kaori and him aren't the right fit. Right? And specifically saying that, it's like he knows, like, no, you're more important for her to be there than I am. Right? You're the one that she's going to when she needs something.
I thought I wrote that quote down. It was interesting because like it turned from instantly from like a confrontation to like, bro, no, like it was almost a like man up moment.
Yeah.
Do the thing you should do. And then when he saw the actual impact it was having on Kousei, like in the realization,
yeah,
that's when it went like, yeah, like when she needs someone, you're the person she goes to. When she needs support, or was it when she wants a shoulder to cry on, to your shoulder, etc., right?
Yeah.
And to paraphrase from Pervert Sage Watery, did he come back from the future to look at a painting? Who knows?
Yeah, and I mean, we see that it's like she has a day pass, and sure, she says she was waiting for Watery. I don't buy that she was waiting for Watery.
What was like on the bridge?
Yeah, it's that exact same thing. It's like that, and that's how she chooses to spend the day.
Well, here's the thing, and this is one of the reasons why, like, the viewers and I should be worried, right? So that meeting, into the rambunctious shopping, into exploring the school, even though you totally didn't go there during the day, that whole experience, and the fact that she does these little intro, these little bits of things you do for someone when you want to court them or you're attracted to them, and you want to see them, you want to run into them and spend time with them, right?
Yeah.
But she's definitely pushing away, keeping at arm's length, right? This
Yeah.
is friend A, etc., etc. Now, I've been putting off talking about this fact for a while because it's been pretty self-evident, but this kind of brought it to the forefront finally. Like, it's not like they were hiding anything, but it's just like so blatant that I can't not say something now.
Yeah.
This episode really reminded me of like a River Tam saying, like, playing at being a real girl. So having these experiences a young woman would be or wanting to have, where the heck did I write this down? Yeah, having and wanting to have these experiences of a regular girl who doesn't have any problems, but still keeping people at an arm's length, especially someone who, by all means, it seems like you want to be head over heels for, someone you want to support and be with, etc. So it tells me one of two things is likely going to happen. Well, one of three things. The first is she just loses the ability, like motor control, no longer able to play music. The other is she just gets sick. Or the least satisfying one narratively for me, given the mother, and the most likely case, given how they like to do a lot of parallels, is Kara is going to die. So, when, like, if she's got news of some type of terminal affliction, I could see her starting to bucket list things or wanting to spend time with someone she cares about, exploring the school at night or watching the stars or going out of her way on her one day, excursion to just so happen to run into the person that we all know that she likes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's yeah, there's a lot there.
Yeah, it's something that we should be worried about, and like, it's both fortunate and unfortunate that they wrote her so well, gave her a unique personality and character traits, because it means that if something really bad happens to her, I'm gonna feel really bad.
Yeah.
So, that's effectively how I read that whole adventure.
Yeah. It definitely has that feel, especially once you realize that, oh nope, she is just back in like she wasn't just out, she was just out on a day pass.
And if it's rudimentary scans, why has she been in there for like weeks?
Yeah. We know she's been there for at least for over a month, for over 2 months.
Well, and they gave us the scene where her parents looked very upset while the doctor looked very concerned. And these are sort of things that they've been pushing and talking about and kind of hinting at up until now.
Yeah.
But I just haven't really mentioned to it because it was just over the top at the time. But now they're hitting us over the head with it. It's like, okay, prepare your heart to...
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure if you remember. There's a bunch of times I said, it's like, huh, isn't that it's like, there's so many things I noted and I can't say any of them.
Well, the problem with that, having you seen it and me not, is we can't go through our notes and be like, did you see this?
Yeah.
Did you understand what that meant? Because it leads on, right?
Yeah. No, that's exactly it. That's why.
Chances are I probably did see half of the things that you said, but there's just not enough material there to warrant a...
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. So it's just one of those things. and you saying that here is like, okay, no, you probably did actually catch a lot of these things because they were early. Like in the first few episodes, there were things that were pointing to where it's going.
Well, it's like to the point. I can't remember what she was playing while she was when she was caught by pervert Cam Kousei. What song that was? But I wouldn't be surprised if it was something like major foreshadowing, like that waltz of the dead pirate's daughter or something like that.
Well, there's it's I don't know. There's a lot there. It's obvious that Kousei has understood what's going on since she was in the hospital. Like he noticed that this was more than just routine scans from the first time she was in there. You know, the first time she ever fainted. Totally,
bro. That was definitely the first time you fainted.
Yeah. And you know, again, they did kind of go that a bit more overt with it, where it's like just the flashing between his mom and her. So parallels. So he saw that parallel, and I like how Kaori acknowledged it. Like she sort of like, it's pretty much like, no, I'm sorry for reminding you, or something to that extent, right? Like, and it's stuff like that. Even before she does confide in him that it's a bit more serious, that it's obvious that he knows, and she knows that he knows. And it's there's just so many like little interesting things, like the quoting from the book about, like, you know, will you be here to see how it ends? Like she's begging for him to be there, but much like Kousei at the beginning of the series, she's lost her inspiration and her spark, which of course, you know, led back beautifully into the A plot by having that performance being done in the first place. But
well, that was a fun little interaction. It's like, oh, you're such a jerk for making a girl who can't even lift her bow listen to that.
Yeah.
She's like, and Kousei just being like, I want you to play with me. Like, him being the one to tell her that he wants her to play with him.
Yeah, there's because I mean, like, he knows he can see the writing on the wall. But it's like, no, I want you to, like, good. I encourage that spark. Hey, look, let's go back to that magical line of, did this reach them? Right? And that was over, like, you know, a crappy flip phone speaker. So says a lot about the performance. and then there's a few things there. So first of all, we see Kousei kind of realizing what he's been doing, like with the chasing. Like I like how his response was, I can't. You've always been ahead of me. So are you going to let me stand beside you instead? I loved that.
Well, I think this is one of the lessons that he was kind of learning from having taught Nagi.
Yeah. It's important, and I think the combination of him calling her out on that, you know, as she said, it's like, you know, it makes her responsive. It's cruel for you to make me want to have dreams again. Like, it's.
I mean, given the fact that she's totally sick, dude, it probably is pretty cruel to make her want to have dreams again. But I also don't think she should resign her fate, which is something that they haven't yet gotten into. I don't even know if they will, but it's definitely something that you can kind of feel with her expressing in such a way.
Yeah. Well, it's like, because we had kind of like a little flash of color when Kousei did show up in her eyes again. Right. But I mean, like the entire monotone of these 3 episodes, because they've been playing with it throughout the series again. And it's like, it's always been in relation to her for understandable reasons. This is where that color is lost. Right. But we have Kousei referencing as like, she brought color into my monotone world. Right. He says that in these episodes again. And we see him manage to return that. Because at the end, we see color in her world again. Right? Which is there playing on the rooftop in the melodica. And you see just that little bit before when she's listening to the piece and, miming, playing. Like, it's giving that spark. And, it's one of the hardest things, one of the worst things you can do when you're hospitalized like this is it's easy to give up, and regardless of the outcome, that's just going to make it worse.
No, I had a moment. Well, because I heard the melodica. You can hear it before they show her, and then the next thing they show her panning down. I'm like, how is she playing that? Because he's not blowing on the tube or the melodica directly. Yeah. And then it like scrolled down just deep enough to like show the little girl blowing on the melodica. I thought it was really funny.
Yeah.
One thing that they did with the colors that I really like, because they were definitely shifting in and out of it here. It was interesting that Kousei finally noticed those colors almost immediately after he was confronted by Watery. And then he was like, he was fretting or doing something weird, and he was walking to go visit Carrie. And then all of a sudden, just these bright, vibrant blues and greens, just the world with so much color. Yeah. After he had the speech of like, no, it's you who she relies on.
Yeah.
Your shoulder who she cries on, etc.
Yeah. And I completely get his idea of what am I going to say? I don't know how to make this better. I don't know what to say. I don't know if I can face this again. and again, it's cliche, but music can transcend words.
Well, I mean, his reaction with the cannolis or whatever was the perfect thing. Shows up with them, and because she's being like, a little mope, it's like, the type of person that deserves these, and just starts shoving them in his face.
Well, and like in reality, that's probably the most normal thing she's had in a while. Like that type of interaction. Like that was how they interacted before she was in the hospital.
I mean, it'd probably cure her if she did some physical violence towards Kousei. Make him bleed from the head, it'll cure you of all ailments.
Maybe not.
Oh, wait. Oh, no. Oh, no. Wait, is he like... Is his blood radioactive or something? The more you beat him, the more cancer you get.
Well, it's just bleeding from the head isn't always the cure.
Tsubaki's next.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it just goes back to like I love the we're getting kind of everything's coming back full circle, right? We're seeing the kind of character reversals, like the growth from them, and just seeing how everyone is there. It's almost like you could watch the first chunk of episodes and like the last few episodes we've kind of watched, if you were to watch them like back to back Memento style. Like I get the feeling that there's a lot of things lining up with it. Again, it's just probably on purpose, giving that reminder of the show. And
I mean, narratively too, like to have the most impact for whatever direction they take Kaori, it is best to give the audience hope and levity through, bringing that same hope and levity to Kaori. So you could strip it away later.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I don't think I've got too much more.
No, that's all me.
That's all I am. All right. Well, let us fiend there.
Yes, I am concerned about the next 3 episodes, as I think I should rightfully be, but the benefit is it's either going to be done right or it's going to be done so wrong it's going to take away any impact, which means it's a win-win, I guess you could say.
That's a fair way to look at it.
Because if it just comes out of it just being like perfectly mid, you suddenly go, it's like, well, then what was the point of the other 20 episodes I just watched?
That is that's valid, but like this is my 4th time going through the series, and by the end of it I'm going to go through it another 5th time. It's let's just say I keep coming back to it, Drew.
It's all coming back to me now. That was not the right melody.
It wasn't that far off.
Wait, that was Celine Dion?
Yes, and then Meatloaf did a version of it. Technically, the song was written for Meatloaf first, but he didn't take it, so Celine Dion did. And it was part of a movie, Up Close and Personal, I want to say.
I mean, she can sing, right? So, I mean, Meatloaf, though, right?
Yeah, Meatloaf does a version of it.
All right, Fiend.
All right, Fiend.